The night before marrying Lucas, my family went bankrupt. He held an umbrella, looking down at me in the pouring rain. I reached out to grab his pants leg, but he disgustedly avoided me. Amelia, do you know that just the thought of you touching me makes me feel sick? I finally understood he had been forced by his parents to please me because of my family's power. Later, I left. He went mad searching for me. When we met again, he wanted to hold my hand with red eyes. I coldly said, "Don't touch me. It's disgusting."
Bang.
My bag fell heavily to the ground. I looked in disbelief at the photo on the TV cabinet. A boy had his arm around a girl's shoulder. They wore matching blue and white school uniforms, beaming bright smiles. The male lead was my fiancé Lucas, and the girl was my best friend Evelyn. You say, why are you digging up this unhappy memory? A mocking laugh came from behind me. It was Lucas's mother. She glanced at the photo and smiled. Lucas and Evelyn look good together, right? That Lucas's mother, who used to gently hold my hand, now asked if they were a good match. Seeing that I didn't speak, Lucas's mother continued. Now that your family is bankrupt, Lucas doesn't have to be with you against his will anymore. My mind exploded. What did she mean? I came to find Lucas because of company funding problems. But my father hadn't told me, fearing I'd worry. I wanted Lucas to help me as we were about to get married and soon be a family. He had said he'd take care of everything. I believed this wholeheartedly. I had known Lucas since we were 6. This year marked 18 years. He had always been gentle and considerate, remembering every little thing I said. My greatest wish was to marry him. I left the Lucas family's living room in a daze. The butler I had known for over 10 years opened the door. His gaze held pity and sympathy. I managed a pale smile. No wonder Lucas hadn't contacted me lately. I thought he was busy with work, but it turned out it was because my family was bankrupt and he could finally be rid of me. As I walked out the door, it was raining outside. I stepped into the rain, and the downpour quickly soaked my dress. I stopped, habitually glancing toward the balcony of Lucas's bedroom on the 2nd floor. Just one look, and I was frozen in place. On the balcony, a tall man tightly held a petite woman in his arms, passionately kissing her amidst the thunder, lightning, and pouring rain. The rain blurred my vision. I couldn't tell if it was rain or tears. I could only vaguely see how tightly he embraced her, how deeply he kissed her. We officially started dating when we were 18, Lucas said. He didn't like having too much physical contact with others. So, when we were together, the most intimate action he took was kissing my forehead. It turned out he could kiss someone with such passion. It turned out he just hated me. He didn't want any intimate contact with me. He probably found it unbearable to kiss my forehead, too. The Lucas on the 2nd floor balcony released the girl he had been kissing, her cheeks flushed, and his gaze fell on the disheveled figure standing in the rain. Lucas, Amelia is here. Evelyn linked her arm with Lucas's, her innocent face clouded with worry. She's out in the rain. Let's go give her an umbrella. My feet felt as if they were nailed to the ground. I wanted to walk away, but I seemed unable to move. I helplessly watched as the door of the villa opened again, and Lucas, holding a black umbrella, slowly walked toward me with Evelyn. Even from a distance, I could still see the expression on Lucas's face. Cold, distant, heartless. He had always been gentle and refined in front of me, but now I was seeing this side of him for the first time. Amelia, you should take the umbrella, Evelyn said worriedly, handing me the umbrella in her hand. I stared coldly at her hypocritical face. Her family favored boys over girls, and she was soft-tempered. I had helped her countless times growing up, treating her like a sister, yet this was how she repaid me. I don't need your false kindness. Lucas narrowed his eyes. Amelia, don't be shameless. Evelyn is just being kind. I felt as if I had heard something funny. Kind? Her kindness is stealing someone else's fiancé? Lucas frowned. Without Evelyn, I wouldn't have liked you either. My nose felt sour. Even though I had learned the truth from Lucas's mother just now, hearing him say it in person tore my heart open like a gaping wound. It hurt so much I couldn't breathe. Why? Why do you have to treat me this way? I rushed forward and shoved Lucas hard. They stumbled back a bit, and I lost my balance and fell to the ground. Evelyn immediately exclaimed and came to help me. I forcefully shook off her hand. Her eyes were red, as if she had suffered a great grievance. Seeing her like this in the past always made me feel heartbroken. A bitter smile appeared on my face. I really was blind. Lucas held the umbrella, looking down at me. Tears blurred my vision. I seemed to catch a glimpse of the tenderness he once had for me. I reached out, wanting to grab his pants leg. I wanted to say I no longer wanted to marry him, and I could withdraw, but could he help my dad? He disgustedly pulled away. Amelia, do you know that just touching me makes me feel extremely sick? His cold and hateful gaze was like a sword, stirring in my chest. The pain made me feel dizzy. Since I was a child, I haven't even had the freedom to make friends. If I upset you, my mom would beat me when I got home. You've been high and mighty for so many years. It's time for you to experience what it's like to be at the bottom. Not long ago, my family was the richest in Ean City. When my mother gave birth to me, she died from amniotic fluid embolism. My dad was afraid I would feel wronged, so he never remarried. He raised me like a precious gem. He was known in Ean City as a devoted father. Because of this, many people would flatter him by first trying to please me. Since I was born, I had everything, and I never cared about those who flattered me. But I never expected that, apart from sending money and gifts, some would even send people. A 6-year-old boy. My dad, who had dominated the business world for over a decade, probably never thought of that. He truly believed Lucas treated me well and had supported the Lucas family over the years, treating Lucas like his own son. He just wanted me to marry into the Lucas family, so they would treat me well. I never imagined they would turn out to be a bunch of ingrates. I stumbled out of the Lucas family yard, walking in the heavy rain under the dim streetlights. Suddenly, a beam of light shone on me. I stepped forward until a car stopped beside me. I halted, glancing just once, and knowing it wasn't a Lucas family car. Even at this point, I still held on to some hope for Lucas. How hopeless. As I turned to continue walking, the driver's door opened, and a man holding a dark blue umbrella got out, walked around the front of the car, and stopped beside me. When he approached, I recognized him. It was my lifelong nemesis Oliver. I lowered my head and weakly said, "I don't have time to listen to your mockery today." Oliver and I lived in the same villa community and had fought since we were kids, always making a scene. Later, during banquets, we were often intentionally kept apart. After he graduated, he went abroad. I heard he was helping his family manage a branch in France. Seeing me down and out, he had traveled all the way back from France just to watch my embarrassment. What a lifelong grudge we had. Oliver frowned. "Is that how you see me?" I hadn't seen him for 2 years. He now looked more polished, a bit more mature, and less brash than before. I nodded. "Yeah." Oliver laughed in anger. "Get in the car." I looked at him warily. Why did he want me to get in the car? Was he planning to close the door and mock me? He seemed a bit helpless. "If you don't get in the car, I won't lend money to your family." Hearing this, I quickly opened the door and sat in the passenger seat. I didn't know if Oliver was lying to me. But right now, no one was willing to lend money to help my family through this tough time. Oliver was the only one who had agreed. I followed Oliver to his Riverside apartment. I had visited here several times before because I had my eye on it first, but Oliver had used some tricks to buy it before I could. Back then, I was only a junior in college. I was so furious I rushed to Oliver's classroom and dragged him away for a beating in front of everyone after I got the news. I looked around and noticed he had decorated it quite nicely. I thought to myself that his taste in aesthetics was indeed good. As soon as he closed the door, I hurriedly spoke up, "I can pay the bank's interest." Oliver casually walked to the couch and sat down, while I cautiously followed. If it weren't for needing to borrow money, I would never have put on this face in front of Oliver. But the company was more important. It was my dad's hard work, and I couldn't just watch it collapse. Oliver rhythmically tapped his fingers on his knee, and I didn't dare to breathe, quietly waiting for him to speak. "I don't lack that bit of interest," he said, leisurely watching me. I couldn't quite read the emotions in his eyes. "You didn't want to lend me but called me to your house? Are you messing with me?" I picked up a cushion and threw it hard at him. It seemed he hadn't changed at all. Furious, I turned to leave. But just as I took a step, my foot tripped over something, and I spun around, falling backward. He crashed onto the sofa. More accurately, I landed on top of Oliver. What do you have in your pocket? Are you trying to do something to me, hiding a weapon or something? I waved my hands in the air several times, but couldn't get up due to lack of strength. Moreover, I fell back a few times. A voice from behind came through, barely holding back its muffled sound. Amelia, if you move again, you're done. Upon hearing this, I immediately understood what it was, and my cheeks turned beet red. You actually want to take advantage of me? I felt like my back teeth were about to crack, and then suddenly remembered what Oliver had said earlier. My expression froze. I turned and pressed down on the sofa, pinning Oliver. He seemed startled by my action. What are you doing? I forced a sweet smile at him, unaware of how creepy it appeared to Oliver. Does this mean you'll lend me the money? I had Oliver completely in my grasp. The level of wealth shocked me momentarily. I kept my face neutral, suppressing my anxiety, and deepened the curve of my lips. Oliver spoke through gritted teeth. Amelia, let go. Oliver, let bygones be bygones. I promise I won't go against you anymore. I'm begging you, lend me the money. I looked at him with pleading eyes. The pressure in my hands was terrifying, yet I still didn't let go. If he didn't agree, I would have to force him and threaten him with photos. Amelia, do you think I can't handle you? Before I could ponder the meaning behind his words, I was already pinned to the sofa by him. He looked down at me, his eyes filled with intense heat. I cursed silently in my heart. I never expected that Oliver, so shameless, would actually have such thoughts about me. No wonder he said he wanted to lend me money and then brought me back here. What do you plan to do to me? I slipped my hand under his shirt, pressing against his abs that felt like a washboard. Oliver sucked in a sharp breath.
Stop it.
He pinned my hand down, and I felt somewhat reluctant. If sleeping with him could solve my financial problems, I wouldn't hesitate for a moment. In the past, I cared about my purity and wanted to give the best version of myself to Lucas, but now nothing mattered more than borrowing money to help my dad through this tough time. I gritted my teeth, closed my eyes, and kissed Oliver's lips. I might have been a bit too forceful and bumped his lips. Hiss, are you kissing me or taking revenge? You nearly knocked my teeth out. I had never kissed anyone before. How would I know? Ignoring his words, I wrapped my arms around his neck, feeling a lump in my throat. Oliver, please lend me the money. My dad has lost a lot of weight lately. I can lend you the money, but you have to let go first. Upon hearing this, I immediately released my grip, showing a gesture of surrender. Oliver rubbed his lips, which I had accidentally hurt, and said, I can inject funds into your company, no need for repayment. On the condition that you marry me. My pupils dilated.
Why?
My family was on the brink of bankruptcy. Why would he want to marry me?
Did he like me? I really dared to think.
Oliver touched his nose and lazily replied, It's quite troublesome, woman. I was at a loss for words. I'll talk to my uncle about the funding.
You talked to him about the marriage.
Tomorrow, come to your house to get your household registration book. This so fast. I was stunned. Then I felt something was off. Did I agree? At that moment, in the Lucas family, Lucas stood on the second-floor balcony, staring at the empty door. It was over. He wouldn't have to go against his will to find Amelia anymore. But Amelia's departure lingered in his mind. She was drenched, her beautiful curves exposed. Lucas suddenly felt a surge of heat in his heart. Previously, he disliked her and didn't want to touch her. Now, he felt it was a bit of a pity. But with Amelia's family going bankrupt, if he really wanted to, given Amelia's devoted nature, it wouldn't be difficult to keep her outside. A glimmer flashed in Lucas's eyes as he extinguished his cigarette and turned to go inside. I looked at the red registration book in my hand, then turned back to glance at the Civil Affairs Bureau. Oliver's funds had already arrived in our company's account at dawn, and he had woken me up early to go to the Civil Affairs Bureau. He was as hurried as if he were rushing to be born. I couldn't even afford to stay in bed a little longer. Where to now? I looked at Oliver beside me. Because he had given money, I was nicer to him than usual. Oliver spoke in a lazy tone. Don't smile like that, it creeps me out. I was speechless. Some people just can't handle a little kindness. They're not used to it. I kicked him on the leg. Get in the car. Oliver grinned mischievously, wrapping his arm around my shoulder. That's the spirit, Mrs. Oliver. What? Mrs. Oliver? I shook off his hand. But Oliver immediately put it back on me. We're married now, and you won't let me touch your shoulder? I forced a smile. I gave you a chance yesterday, and you didn't cherish it. Oliver immediately got excited. Wasn't yesterday's situation inappropriate?
Come on, let's go home now.
I widened my eyes in disbelief.
What was he saying?
Oliver shoved me into the car, and we drove back to the apartment where we had slept the night before. I had slept in the master bedroom, but I had no idea where Oliver had slept. As soon as the door closed, Oliver scooped me up in his arms and carried me straight to the master bedroom, moving with the familiarity of someone who had done it countless times. I remembered he had never been in a relationship. Could it be that he had dated a girl while in France these past 2 years? He was good-looking, had a great body, and came from a good family. Not dating would be abnormal. I would soon find out. Oliver really had never been in a relationship. Looking at the shocked expression on Oliver's face, I would have laughed at him in the past, but now I felt my cheeks flush. He didn't even make it through the door before it was over. I felt like I was done for two. Unexpected. Oliver gritted his teeth, lowered his head, and leaned in to kiss me again. Seeing his devastated expression, I couldn't help but smooth his hair. It's okay. Everyone has their first time. Oliver, sounds like you have quite a bit of experience. For some reason, I felt a hint of jealousy in his words, and a sharp pain pierced my brain as I bit down hard on Oliver's shoulder. Oliver seemed stunned and didn't move. He definitely didn't expect that I had been with Lucas for 6 years without ever kissing. Because Lucas hated me. Thinking about Lucas still made my heart ache slightly. If you dare to cheat in the future, I'll castrate you. I won't. I will only have you for the rest of my life. Oliver leaned down and kissed my eyelid, devout and gentle. My heart skipped a beat. That was not Oliver's usual style at all. Soon, I lost my train of thought as Oliver's body taught me what was unexpected and what was normal. I woke up again to the sound of a phone ringing. I lifted my tired hand to grab the phone and put it to my ear. Hello? My voice was hoarse and still a bit dry. I cursed all over countless times in my heart. It's me. Lucas's voice chased away all the drowsiness in my mind. What was he calling for? Wasn't yesterday enough for him to mock me? I cooled my tone. What's the matter? Lucas's voice instantly changed. What happened to your throat? I chuckled. You and Evelyn have been together behind my back for years, right? Haven't slept together? And you're asking me what's wrong? Lucas's face darkened. Amelia, you haven't dissolved our engagement yet, and you're looking for other men outside? Lucas, have you lost your mind? Don't you know the reason behind our marriage? It's just a scheme, and you still have the nerve to bring it up. Lucas, stop pretending, Amelia. I know your personality too well. Was he implying that I was conservative? Before I could respond, he continued, I can help with the company, but you have to listen to me. Lucas's voice dripped with condescension, and I felt confused. What did he mean by listening to him? Suddenly, I realized the implication behind Lucas's words, and my face turned pale. You want me to be your mistress? Who told my wife to be a mistress? The phone was snatched from my hand, and when I looked up, I saw Oliver's frostbitten face. This was the first time I had seen Oliver like this. It was quite frightening. Upon hearing a man's voice on the phone, Lucas's veins bulged on his forehead. Oliver, are you messing with my woman? Oliver smirked, but his eyes were cold. I've gotten a marriage certificate with my wife. It's legal.
Don't daydream.
What does my wife have to do with you? As soon as he finished speaking, there was a series of beeping sounds from the phone. Lucas's face turned dark as ink, and he smashed the phone in his hand, shattering it into pieces. Lucas, what's wrong? When Evelyn walked in, the phone lay shattered at her feet, and the man sitting on the sofa exuded a low pressure. Lucas calmed his expression. What are you doing here? Evelyn sat down on the sofa. Auntie asked me to look at wedding dresses. You should come down and take a look too. Lucas's expression momentarily faltered. He called out of the blue, "I'm innocent." I stammered. Oliver still looked displeased. I kicked Oliver's leg. "Why are you frowning? He's annoying." Oliver grabbed my foot and pressed down. "Didn't you realize how blind you were back then?" I remembered telling Evelyn in high school that I didn't like guys with tan skin and muscles. I preferred someone like Lucas, who was fair and slender. Oliver happened to overhear that. He sarcastically said that Lucas was like a boiled chicken, good-looking but useless, and I shot back at him with cold remarks. Eventually, I couldn't win the argument, so I resorted to hitting him. I almost scratched his face. Oliver had always been a little rascal who loved playing basketball. My skin was weak-colored, and I once accidentally saw him changing clothes in high school, revealing his enticing 8-pack abs. I actually liked it. I just wanted to tease Oliver. He always had a sharp tongue. He had never lost an argument to me, and I had never won a fight against him. Oliver leaned in to kiss me, but his lack of experience showed. Our kissing was a clumsy exchange. After a while, he released me. "We're going to Greece tomorrow." "Huh?" Oliver tapped my forehead. "Since we're married, we have to go on our honeymoon." I was taken aback. I had previously told Lucas I wanted to go to Greece for our honeymoon, but he had just nonchalantly murmured "aha," without even looking away from his computer. I asked, "How did you know I wanted to go to Greece?" Oliver shot me a glance. "You said before that, after marrying me, we'd go to Greece for our honeymoon." There was a hint of regret in his tone. I stared at him, and it took me a while to remember I had said that when I was 4. Before I turned 5, I loved playing behind Oliver. But he didn't like me. On his 5th birthday, our parents jokingly said they would arrange our engagement. Oliver pushed me away, saying he hated me and didn't want to marry me. I was heartbroken, cried heavily at home, and never went to find Oliver again, which strained our family's relationship. "Didn't you hate me? How do you remember that?" I asked. Oliver pinched my cheek. "You really hold a grudge. I accidentally pushed you, and you just ignored me forever." I was puzzled. "Accidentally?" Oliver opened his mouth, but then shut it again. I caught sight of his flushed ears. "I apologize to you."
When?
I asked, suddenly realizing something. "That giant teddy bear. I thought it was a gift from Evelyn." At that time, Evelyn was standing at the door with the bear, and I was curious about how she had carried it. Oliver, feeling exasperated, said, "I told you Evelyn isn't a good person, but you didn't believe me." I met Evelyn in kindergarten, and Oliver didn't like her at all, always speaking ill of her in front of me. I thought Oliver was just looking for trouble. Looking back, I was so naive. It's not too late to believe now. I grinned. Fortunately, Oliver was not the type to hold grudges. After all those years of me hitting him, he was still willing to help our family through tough times. The next day, I boarded a plane to Greece. I originally wanted to stay in the country to help my dad, but he said he could handle it and encouraged me to go out and clear my mind. Before boarding the plane, I saw the news that the Lucas family and the Evelyn family were announcing their engagement. The internet was promoting their love story. As his former fiancé, I had completely faded from the public eye, just as I wished. I only hoped to never have any more connections with those two. On the day we arrived in Athens, it was already afternoon. Oliver and I had lunch and then lay on lounge chairs on the terrace, watching the sunset over the Aegean Sea. I preferred watching sunsets over sunrises. The golden light spilling over the deep blue sea was breathtakingly beautiful. A few days later, we went scuba diving in the blue caves on Zakynthos Island. I had always loved diving, but Lucas was afraid of water because he had nearly drowned once. I rarely went diving. As we entered the water, Oliver held my hand, and as we submerged into the deep blue sea, I felt as if I had entered another world. The heaviness in my heart seemed to dissipate in an instant. My future is still long. Lucas and Evelyn are just passing through. I don't need to dwell on them. The ones who made mistakes are them, not me. About half a month into our stay in Greece, my dad called with good news. The company situation had stabilized for now and wouldn't go bankrupt. As for whether he could regain his status as the richest man in City, that would depend on my dad. At the same time, News of my marriage with Oliver was also released. Wife, how should I thank you? Oliver's fluffy head nuzzled against my shoulder. During the past half-month in Greece, Oliver seemed like a different person, sticking to me from morning till night. He didn't change even when I hit or scolded him. Go away, I'm going to sleep. I turned away from him and flopped onto the bed. For the past half-month, I had spent half the day exercising outside and the nights exercising in bed. I was so exhausted. Let's sleep together, wife. Oliver quickly climbed into bed and snuggled under the covers. Lucas tightened his grip on his cup unconsciously. Amelia is moving pretty fast. Didn't she and Oliver have a bad relationship? Why are they getting married? Hunter swirled his wine glass and glanced over at Lucas. Oliver has liked Amelia for a long time, right? They used to argue like crazy every time they met. How is that possible? Hunter said, you don't know? Back in freshman year, two guys were talking behind Amelia's back about her figure, and he beat them up so badly they were left bruised. What good does Oliver liking Amelia do? Amelia likes our Lucas. Lucas, is Amelia getting married to Oliver out of spite because you're getting married? Lucas slammed the blanket down heavily. Amelia won't like him. Seeing Lucas's bad mood, Hunter quickly tried to lighten the atmosphere. Amelia likes you a lot. We all know that. Lucas, do you like Evelyn or Amelia? In families like ours, marriage is for life. You need to think it through. One of his friends spoke up. Everyone in the room knew that Lucas had been with Evelyn behind Amelia's back. They thought Lucas and Evelyn were going to end up together. However, Lucas had been in a terrible mood lately, especially after the news broke about Amelia's engagement to Oliver. When Lucas entered the private room, he was radiating dark energy, looking like he was about to kill someone. Lucas picked up his glass and downed the drink in one go, a cold glint flashing in his eyes. She wouldn't dare marry anyone else. Seeing the situation was off, his friends quickly changed the topic. Do you want to answer the phone? I lifted half my face from the pillow. I'm not answering. I was exhausted. It's Lucas. Only then did I notice Oliver's carefree expression had turned sour. I still couldn't understand why Oliver disliked him so much. Wife, he's so clingy. It's annoying. I chuckled helplessly. Just answer it. Oliver pressed the answer button and held the phone to my ear. Amelia, my stomach hurts. Lucas's drunken voice came through the receiver. I glanced at Oliver's slightly gloomy face. His brows were furrowed so tightly he could crush a mosquito. I replied coolly, if your stomach hurts, go see a doctor. After half a month, hearing Lucas's voice had become quite mundane for me. Amelia, can you come pick me up? I miss you. I was baffled. Are you out of your mind? I'm Amelia, the one you hate. If you want to go crazy, go find Evelyn. My husband and I are busy and don't have time for you. I hung up the phone after saying that. On the other end, Lucas stared blankly at the phone that had just been disconnected, looking at the darkened screen. A sudden panic arose in his heart. She's really getting married? Lucas, why are you sitting on the ground? Get up. Evelyn rushed over from the car, eager to help Lucas up. Let go. Lucas shook off Evelyn's hand, and she looked at him in disbelief. Lucas, Evelyn's eyes were red. Aren't you happy that Amelia is getting married? Lucas remained silent. Go home. Are you happy now? I set my phone aside, watching Oliver's mood darken. The only good thing about him was that he didn't hide his feelings. Wife, what did you just call me? I frowned, pretending not to know. What did I call you?
Say it again.
I don't remember, Oliver. In the end, Oliver forced me to call him husband several times using unconventional methods. After spending a month in Greece, we flew to France and Oliver showed me all the places he lived in the past 2 years. On the first day in France, I received a message from a casual friend saying Lucas was searching for me all over the capital. They also said that the marriage between the Lucas and Evelyn families had been cancelled. I was surprised. Weren't they madly in love? Why did it suddenly get cancelled? I didn't have the energy to care about their matters and went out to have fun with Oliver. After nearly a month in France, we returned home to prepare for the wedding. What I didn't expect was to see Lucas the night before returning home. He looked worn out, No longer the refined young master he used to be. The fiery sunset spilled over the bustling pedestrians as I stood across from him in the crowd, our eyes locking. He strode toward me, and just as he was about to touch my arm, I sidestepped and said, "Don't touch me. It's disgusting." Lucas's joyful expression froze at my words and my cold demeanor. "Amelia, I've been looking for you for a long time. I found it amusing."
What do you want with me?
"To attend your wedding with Evelyn?" Lucas quickly shook his head. "No, I miss you, Amelia. I was wrong. I shouldn't have said that back then. I've broken off the engagement with her. Can we live well together from now on?" His gaze was sincere, filled with the affection I had longed for before. It was too late. His late-coming affection felt cheap now. "I'm already married." I extended my hand, revealing the pink diamond ring on my finger, which Oliver had bought at an auction. He proposed to me in front of everyone under the Eiffel Tower. He said that even though we were legally married, we shouldn't forget the rituals that should come with it. When I was with Lucas, he seemed gentle, but looking back now, his kindness was merely superficial. Especially after spending 2 months traveling with Oliver, I realized how foolish I had been before. "I know Oliver must have tricked you. As long as you get a divorce." Before he could finish, Oliver, who had gone to buy me water, punched him down. Lucas wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. "Oliver, you're taking advantage of a situation. You're such a petty person." Oliver scoffed. "Lucas, you're really shameless. You were with Amelia, enjoying the advantages her family provided while pretending to be virtuous, while messing around outside." I could see that Oliver harbored deep resentment towards Lucas and didn't stop him from hitting him. As the two wrestled with each other, I kicked Lucas in the chaos. How dare he humiliate me like that? To say I'm disgusting. I'm the daughter of the richest man in Cloud City, with looks and money. What kind of man do I not want? It's not like I forced him to play with me. Why does he blame everything on me? All right, husband, stop fighting. If you break him, it won't be good. Seeing Lucas lose more air than he gained, I quickly pulled Oliver back. His muscles were definitely not in vain. Oliver crouched down, pointing at Lucas's nose. "Today, I'll let you go for my wife's sake. If you bother her again, let's see if I won't beat you to death." Oliver had wanted to beat Lucas for quite a while. Lucas had Amelia's affection but didn't cherish it, which made him furious. But in the past, he hadn't believed anything Amelia said. When they were kids, he had pushed Amelia into someone else's arms because of his mixed feelings and cried under the covers in regret at night. Fortunately, she was back by his side now. "Amelia, please don't call him that." Lucas looked at me with pleading eyes, but I ignored him. Oliver was the one who had beaten him, and I still had to call a car to take him to the hospital. Oliver held me, looking down at Lucas curled up on the ground. Just like that day at Lucas's family home. On my first day back home, Evelyn came knocking at my door. I didn't want to see her, but I was curious as to why she had treated me that way. I had known her longer than I had known Lucas. I asked the servant to just pour her a glass of water. She was no longer my friend, so there was no special treatment when she came to my house. She showed me that pitiful look I had seen before. "Amelia, I'm sorry. I really didn't want to hurt you." I was now immune to that expression. "You say you don't want to hurt me, but what about your actions?" The photo I saw at Lucas's family home looked like it was taken in sophomore year. They had been together for a long time, but Lucas was still pretending to be deeply in love with me while I had shared all my girlish secrets with Evelyn. I could only imagine how they were laughing at me behind my back. Evelyn bit her lip. "Amelia, I don't have a good family background like you. I don't have a loving father or a childhood protector. Lucas likes me, and I like him. We're truly in love."
Didn't I protect you?
I was laughing at Evelyn's words. "Why do you think I have a reputation for being domineering in the capital? Isn't it because I always stood up for you?" I didn't understand the saying, "The pitiful must have their faults before." Now I understand, it's people like you. Others help you, yet you have no gratitude and still compare yourself to others. I was so angry that I spilled everything out. Evelyn started crying, tears streaming down her face. I watched her cry coldly. After a while, when she saw I had no reaction, She stopped sobbing. Amelia, can you help me talk to Lucas? Tell him not to break up with me. Now my mom wants me to marry a man in his 30s who has been married before. I raised an eyebrow. Aren't you two in love?
What do you want me to say?
I didn't have the patience to listen to Evelyn anymore. I realized she had her own way of thinking, as if she were the weakest and most reasonable person in the world. I had the butler send her away, then continued to look at the invitation styles. When the wedding preparations were nearly complete, I received a call from Lucas's mother, asking me to visit him in the hospital. She said Lucas was sick. I told her to find a doctor and hung up the phone. I had forgotten how she had ridiculed me before. Why should I go see Lucas when he was sick? But the next day, Lucas's mother came knocking at my door. I refused for a week, but she came every day. I got annoyed and eventually went to the hospital. When I saw Lucas in the ward, I was shocked. He had lost a significant amount of weight, the hospital gown hanging loosely on him, his eyes dark and sunken. He no longer resembled the gentle and polite young master he used to be. I brought you an invitation today. I placed a beautifully crafted invitation on the bedside table, and he reached out to grab my hand. His eyes were red as he looked at me. Amelia, is there really no chance left? I pulled my hand back forcefully. Did you think about whether there would be a chance in the future when you called me disgusting? He was left speechless, regret flashing in his eyes. He finally realized how hurtful those words were. Did you think about whether there would be a chance in the future when you degraded me and wanted me to be your mistress? With every word I spoke, his face grew paler. Lucas, the pity act won't work on me. Even if you died in front of me, I wouldn't blink. I would just think, another disgusting person has left. The light in Lucas's eyes completely extinguished. I'm not some kind-hearted person. I care for those I love, and I'd risk my life for them. But for those I don't care about, I wouldn't even give them a second glance. I walked out of the hospital with my bag and looked up at the clear blue sky. The weather was nice, with no clouds in sight. What a beautiful day, wife. A well-dressed man stood not far away, leaning against a car and waving at me. I smiled and walked toward him. The first time I saw Amelia, I thought she was as beautiful as a porcelain doll. At that time, she was accompanied by an annoying little brat. He always drives Amelia to the brink of anger, but her gaze is always on him. When she's not with him, she's playing with another girl. At first, I really wanted to be friends with her. The first time I held her hand and played together, I was genuinely happy. I thought to myself, how could there be such a lovely girl as Amelia in the world? When I grow up, I must marry her. Later, my parents realized that our good relationship with Amelia could bring benefits from her family, so they started to subtly encourage me to please her.
I didn't like that.
But I couldn't resist, and slowly, I didn't want to go to her house anymore, nor did I want to see her. I felt like we had become different. She was the master, and I was the servant. As she grew older, she became more beautiful and lively, attracting many admirers. Everyone loved to play with her, especially that annoying Oliver, who lingered around Amelia like a shadow. In my second year of high school, I started dating Evelyn. I didn't actually like her. We were very similar, which created a kind of mutual admiration between us. At 18, under my mother's pressure, I confessed my feelings to Amelia, and she happily agreed. At that moment, I felt a bit regretful. I wanted to be with her genuinely and planned to break up with Evelyn. But Evelyn cried like a wilted flower, and I comforted her for a long time. Then she suddenly undressed in front of me. At 18, with an abundance of passion, my heart slowly tipped toward Evelyn. But I also enjoyed Amelia's affection for me. Amelia was sunny and cheerful, like a vibrant little sun. Just looking at her seemed to brighten my mood. For 6 years, I lived with guilt while enjoying Amelia's kindness. I was unwilling to admit that I liked her. I could only brainwash myself into thinking I liked Evelyn, that I hated Amelia, and that my relationship with Evelyn was true love, not a betrayal of Amelia. At 24, Amelia's family faced bankruptcy, and I knew my chance to escape from her had come. But after she left, my world seemed empty. No matter how hard I tried, I couldn't fill that void. I began to think of finding Amelia again, believing that the intense emotions might fade once we had physical contact. I never expected that Amelia had married Oliver. Once I realized she was marrying Oliver, I knew I had lost my chance. Oliver had been eyeing Amelia for years. He always showed up whenever there was even the slightest hint of trouble. But I didn't want to admit it. I quickly called off my engagement with Evelyn. I had never really planned to marry her anyway. Since Amelia had rejected my return, I thought to force her to give in through this method. But she didn't. I desperately searched for her, eventually finding her in Paris. When I heard her call Oliver husband, all my hopes were shattered. If she didn't like him, she wouldn't call him that. After returning to my country, I had deliberately started drinking heavily, hoping to gamble on her soft heart. She was easy to coax and was very soft-hearted, but I didn't know her soft heart was only for the one she cared about. Amelia has now been married for 10 years, and she and Oliver are a well-known loving couple in their city. They have a lovely daughter, whom I once saw from a distance. I often think, if I hadn't let my so-called pride hold me back and had admitted my feelings for Amelia early on, I would be the one married to her now. Not long ago, Evelyn came looking for me. She was forced by her parents to marry a man 10 years older than her, who had been married before, and her life was miserable. She wanted me to help her escape her predicament. I was actually resentful towards her in my heart. Of course, I refused. Looking at the diagnosis paper in my hand that confirmed late-stage stomach cancer, I could only manage a bitter smile.